be on Facebook, you can be on X, you can be on LinkedIn, Instagram. It doesn't matter where you are. Just get in the chat. Let us know you're there because we like to celebrate you by name because we recognize you can be any place else on this beautiful Friday evening, but you are here with us and we do not take that lightly. So, yeah, listen, we're about to go ahead and get into it. Um, have you ever found yourself saying, I'm fine, when you're anything but, just to avoid burdening others or because you felt it wasn't acceptable to express negativity? How did that make you feel in the long run? Well, tonight we're going to explore the nuanced terrain of toxic positivity, its definition, how it manifests in our personal and professional lives, its impact on our mental health, and why emotional intelligence is crucial in distinguishing between being genuinely optimistic and falling into the trap of toxic optimism. We'll also discuss practical strategies for fostering environments that encourage authentic emotional expression, allowing for a more balanced and healthy approach to dealing with life's challenges. This conversation is not just about critiquing the culture of forced cheerfulness. It's about understanding the importance of embracing the full spectrum of the human experience and recognizing that it's okay not to be okay. Whether you felt the pressure to hide your true feelings behind a smile or just seeking ways to support others in expressing themselves authentically, this discussion is for you. So join us as we unpack the complexities of toxic positivity. And together, let's create a space where all emotions are acknowledged, validated, and respected. Your feelings are valid, and this conversation is a step towards honoring that truth in all its forms. So join us as we embark on this enlightening journey. So, because words mean things, and I always like to make sure that there is a clearly defined definition of what a word is. Um, I want to make sure that we get after that. But first, I want to kind of give our disclaimer because, again, on this platform, we want to make sure that we're honoring everybody's opinion. So, on this platform, Empowering Perspectives, we believe that everybody is a subject matter expert of their own perspective. So, we make room for that. Everybody can express what they're thinking. And then, in the space of collective perspective, we should be able to get closer to the truth. So, speaking of the truth, gentlemen, I want to start off with the first question here. What is toxic positivity? Otherwise, we're going to start calling it toxic optimism, right? And how does it differ from genuine and authentic positivity?
Um, I take the shot, right? When I'm looking at toxic and positivity, uh, I tend to think about a shield that a lot of people use to protect themselves of from vulnerability or even from the presumption that they're weak or that they're in a state of where they're not okay to the public eye. So um and I know there's different aspects to come from, but that's normally where every time I've looked at it this week, I went there in my mind. Like there's a lot of times in positivity talk when people are being optimistic or positive in a sense of masking a personal issue or a personal vulnerable moment that they don't want to be exposed to the world for the sake of just protecting maybe not their character or whatever go maybe just protect themselves from having to have a conversation that they're not ready to have or they don't want to have in a certain space or with a certain person. um but I know there's more to it, and I want to leave some meat on the bone from my brothers
Meat on
to
the
go in.
bone.
Hey, because I
Let,
know
let,
y'all gonna go to work. you know.
let me get a little. Let me chew on it. Um, so I think it's just being positive. It can be positive to your own detriment, right? People tell me, "Hey, man, have a good day," but they really don't feel that. They really don't think that way. So they just walk around saying all of these positive quotes or quoting these mantras and stuff like that, and trying to mask or cover up for what's really what could really be going on the inside. You know what I mean? Like I said, to the point your own detriment. So that's what I think. just kind of being looking at this word for the first time this week. That's what that's what I'm thinking about right now. And how does it differ from genuine or authentic positivity? I think that the intent is behind there. Like if you really mean, hey, have a good day, that's what you really mean. If you really, you know, mean what you say when you say these positive things, then I think that that's when it's really being authentic and you're not necessarily putting on airs or fronts or anything like that just for some people. I don't know if you grew up in some of these old churches, but you see, people in the church be going through, literally they be going through hell, but they always talking about praise the Lord, brother, praise the Lord, sister. You know what I mean? A lot of people, were hiding things and hurts and pains and issues that was going on in their lives and stuff like that. But every time you saw them, they was always shouting, like I said, praise the Lord, brother. That was always like the greeting. At least it was in my church when I grew up. So
I do like that example though. But the example I would go along with that is the blessed and highly favored crew. But anyway,
mhm.
um, I turn it over to Mr. Roland Walker there, sir.
Man, toxic positivity. When you threw that out there, I'm like, oh, coach taking shots at me, huh? No, because I am naturally a positive person. And I tell people, I don't care who it is, after my situations, I said I don't have bad days. But see, and that can become toxic in nature if I don't finish it up with I have bad moments, but I don't allow myself to have bad days. Meaning that in the grand scheme of things, I allow myself to feel what's going on in the moment. And it may not be good. And I got to deal with that. See, toxic positivity tells you to overlook that, to go beyond and say, that doesn't even matter because you're living. It's positive. Everything is positive. No, everything ain't positive. Sometimes I just want to slap somebody. Sometimes I just want to choke some. Well, I can't say that on here. Sometimes I want to do some bad things. But I can't get consumed by that, nor can I get consumed by I'm blessed and highly favored, knowing that I'm struggling, knowing that I'm going through. You have to allow people to feel whatever they're feeling so that they can learn to deal with it. So when it becomes that toxic positivity is somebody telling you, knowing that you're about to bust your head wide open, but they're telling you to smile, don't worry, and be happy. Allow people to feel whatever they're going through, but at the end of the day, don't let it consume them so that they realize that there is better after. But in the present tense, they have to be in that moment to where they can feel whatever's going on and realize that, man, pain hurts. I can't talk my way out of pain hurting. I gotta allow the pain to hurt, realize that it hurts, and then I can use my cognizant ability to say, man, but like old boy said in the movie, but did you die? you know hey.
So what's the if anybody what's the difference, and we may get there later on, but what's the difference between like when someone's saying blessed and highly favored, sometimes with, and even anything that's considered positive, what I mean, sometimes people are saying that as a mantra or something that they're using, it's like, I'm not there yet, but I'm gonna speak it into existence and stuff like that. So I don't know. I
think,
just kind of started thinking about that.
I think you're dealing with whether people are using affirmations or affirming behaviors in life to build themselves up rather than to lie to themselves about where they are.
I absolutely agree there. But also sometimes when I hear the blessing highly favored, right? I know that it's a mantra, but I think it's become more of one of those, what do you call those statements? You know what I'm trying to say. Where
Catchphrase, buzzword.
yeah, is a catchphrase. It's something that they're just used to saying. It sounds right for the moment because I'm at church or uh a religious event. Blessed and highly favored sounds good. It makes me look holy. I sound the part,
Yeah.
versus is that really a reflection of where I am mentally, spiritually, physically, am I really living blessed, and am I living as one who's highly favored? You know, that's how I view it.
So let's kind of unpack that a little bit, because Garfield, I like the fact that you asked that question. And so I'm hearing from two different perspectives. One perspective is what I do to somebody else, but another perspective is what I present to others, because I don't want them to see the real thing that's going on with me. Am I catching what you guys saying correctly? I got two head nods.
Yeah, I can roll with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you repeat it?
So two different perspectives from what I heard you guys say. One perspective is what I do to somebody else, like kind of like what you said. It ain't that bad. You know what I'm saying? You'll be all right. Okay. And then the other perspective is what I present to other people, because I don't really want them to see the real me. Right. That's the blessed and highly favored, so forth and so on. Am I catching that accurately?
Yeah, I think that was a good way to put it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I think that's important to understand, because within the lines of both of those perspectives are concerns, right? And those concerns that exist do not get after, first and foremost, the authentic nature of humanity. That's for starters. But it does not get you to where you think it's going to get you to as well. Like, there is no such thing as fake it till you make it. I know, back in the day, that's kind of like what they talked about. So I can speak good tidings all I want to it, but if I don't believe it, it's not going to ever happen. So the first thing I have to do is believe the thing that I'm saying, right? And then if I say it, then it can come to reality. But the problem is that we kind of superimpose it, and we say, I'm gonna speak it until I believe it. No, it don't work that way. I'm sorry. I mean, I get it. I understand. We may have adopted that way of thinking, but that doesn't necessarily work. So before we go any further, because I want to make sure that we kind of paint the clear picture for everybody. So we kind of address directly and indirectly what it is, what it looks like when I'm displaying it, because I don't want people to see the real me. Or on the other hand, when I'm projecting it at somebody else, like, where does it stem from? Like, where does this whole notion of toxic positivity stem from, in your opinions?
I think you can go to scripture where it says faith without works is dead. Because if you go back to what they were saying, just have faith. A lot of people say just have faith, just have faith, like it's just a mental condition. But if your mental and your motor skills aren't in action together, then you're gonna be in the same place that you started in. So I think it's a thing where people start to say, well, all you got to do is think it. If you think it and believe it, it'll come to pass. No, if I think it and believe it without motion, I'm still thinking and believing. I'm merely just doing a lot of thinking, doing a lot of whatever you're telling me to do. But I have whatever I'm thinking and believing on, I have to put something in motion. I can't say I'm gonna be a doctor. I'm gonna be a doctor. I ain't took nobody class. I haven't picked up a book. I haven't studied anything. You have to actually work, put something to work, because if you don't have works behind whatever you're doing, you aren't really doing anything but sitting there thinking, contemplating. It's wishful thinking.
I'm gonna jump right on the back of Roland real quick, because it made me think about. Now I didn't know Sergeant Roland or Sergeant Walker. I know Minister Elder or Walker. I know Roland, my brother, my friend. But I know the Army, and I know that as the medic platoon sergeant, or even as a good medic, one that we like even a little bit, your nickname was Doc, right? And just indulge me for 10 seconds with this one, right? So Doc has never really been formally trained to be a doc. He's a medic, and I don't even, and you wouldn't even classify a medic as an. Would you classify the work you do even CNA wise? I'm not sure. I know that certification is not there. You got to get those certifications, but just work wise and training wise, right? It's more trauma based. But we call them doc because we're taught that the medics is doc. We hear it all the time. It's become cultural in the military. Your unit medic, your section medic, you call them doc. right? That's what we've done, and that's the same thing we do with I'm reading the chats. I see be blessed, and we do with blessed and highly favored. We do with if I say it, I'm going to believe it, right? Because or with these stone faces or these false appearances, is because we're taught to put on something and hide the other thing from the public. You don't want to see people sweat. You don't want people to see you sweat, right? You don't want to appear weak. You want to, whatever the teacher may be, depending on your household. We're taught a lot of these behaviors, but never really taught the true aspect of healing, right? So when we say stuff like I'm blessed and highly favored, or the daily affirmations, if you haven't dealt with you first, so that you can believe these things about yourself, then you're really just saying it really just becomes lip service. Calling you doc is what I call you, but when we take this uniform off, without going through some type of extra training, can you go and do a job of a doc or of a nurse, right? There's still more that has to be done. And it's not diminishing medics. I love my medics, right? Always one of my good friends, medics, supplies, and cooks, because I'm a 42, so I take care of that part, or admin guy, right? But the reality is, even my cooks got to go get more formal training to cook on the outside professionally. Even my IT guys got to get certifications in order to do something. So it's because we're taught to address people in a certain way, and to view people a certain, or to say things a certain way, and not really taught to go be that, to go exude that blessed behavior. If you're blessed by the Most High, then it ought to show, right? Not just in your physical gains or your material things, but in your character and who you are. And so we haven't been taught to deal with that. I'm sorry, I'm running on.
Oh, you good? I got to jump in here real quick because you minimized me to a CNA. Not speaking on CNAs. Ain't
no, I'm talking about certification wise. Like, I don't know which I technically can do outside without more training, right?
Right. But while saying that's why, the more rank you get, the more certifications you acquire, and so forth and so on. But I wouldn't allow units and people to call my medics doc if they hadn't done the things to earn that. You can't just walk in and say, I'm doc because you passed the class. No, you got to show, you got to do something. You got to prove that you're worthy of that, because yes, we have the CNA licenses, we have the EMT licenses, we have certain licenses. And in actuality, my job was more detailed than a nurse. My job was more detailed than your average nurses in hospitals and everything of that sort, because I could do what they can do, but they can't do what I can do. I could do surgeries. They couldn't do surgeries. There were things that we were allowed to do because of position. And that's why I say you have to put in the work. That's why, like, other people's secondary schooling might be a month, might be 2 weeks, might be whatever. Mine was 4.5 months, because we had to do a lot of different procedures. And it all goes back to that. You got to put the work in, and I'll let my brothers jump in on that.
Yeah, speaking of going back to that, I feel like we just went through a whole episode of Chicago Med just now. Listen, let me welcome our brother to the conversation. Chris, good to see you, man. Welcome to the show.
Greetings, everybody. My apologies for my tardiness. My apologies.
Oh, you're good, man. You're good.
Apology not accepted. Now
Well,
what?
dang.
Now what?
On the first Friday of the month, you gonna do this to me?
I just wanted to see. So, but reality, what do you do when people say apology not accepted? What do you say?
You just scream toxic positivity and keep going.
Hey, there you go.
I'm about to say, I move on because I did what I was supposed to do.
There you go. You
There you
move
go,
on.
man.
Exactly. If they
So-
don't accept it, they don't accept it.
So, Chris, to bring you up to speed, man, we're sitting here talking about toxic positivity and we're defining it, and pretty much kind of trying to paint a well-rounded picture so that everybody have a genuine understanding of what it is. Would you like to chime in? I know you came in late, and if you want to wait till we get to the next question, that's fine. But would you like to chime in based upon your understanding of what toxic positivity is?
I would like to learn and understand what it is because I view this as a buzz phrase, and y'all know how I feel about buzzwords and buzz phrases. I don't pay them any attention. And from the looks of it, toxic positivity, we were discussing this before, man. It sounds like an oxymoron. Like, how can positivity be toxic? So this might be the part of the game where I learn and ask questions.
Okay.
I might chime in if I might chime in if there's something that describes an experience that I went through, but what it is in itself, I need to know what it is.
Yeah, gotcha. And so, based upon the, I'm sorry, you got something, Uncle Junior?
Yeah, in other words, Chris saying he gonna have some good nuggets for us tonight.
That's code word for Chris. We speak Chris very fluently around here. So, based upon what everybody's perspective is,
I love y'all so much. I just
Hey,
wanted
man,
to say that. I really
we
do.
love you too. We
I
you
love
too.
y'all.
So, based upon everybody's perspective of toxic positivity, it is a disingenuous expression of reality. It does not take into account the true, authentic nature of how a person actually feels, and it's either projected in the atmosphere to prevent people from seeing the true you, or it is projected in the atmosphere because the other person is trying to downplay your experience and what you're going through. Kind of like if you're going through a situation, they say, "Oh man, you'll be all right," or "You'll get over it." Or somebody say, "Hey man, how you doing?" I'm good. You know what I'm saying? No further explanations. I'm good. And we as men, and I was going to kind of touch on that later, but we as men, we're very guilty with the "I'm good" response, because in most cases we're not necessarily comfortable with expressing how we actually feel. In the Christian community, you hear people say that I'm blessed and highly favored, or whatever that looks like, right? And it just become a statement, a thing in which we were conditioned to say, but it doesn't really describe who I am or what I'm going through or whatever that looks like. So that was everybody's expression. You're muted, but go ahead.
So it's like a catchphrase.
It can be a catchphrase, yeah. It can be a catchphrase. It could be a practice statement, but the key is that it's masking. It doesn't really articulate the true nature of the person.
No, I okay.
All right, gotcha. Let's grab some of these statements before we move on to the next question. Looks like Lisa had a statement up here. She said, "If I may, I think being toxic and positive is an attempt at to protect oneself and a measure of fear that extends from a historical trauma." It can be, absolutely. It can stem from historical trauma, or it doesn't necessarily have to stem from trauma at all, but it definitely stems from fear. What you got, Chris?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. I've seen you on mute. Michelle says toxic positivity dismisses all negative feelings in favor of an easygoing and often fake positive facade. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is pretty much textbook there.
Oh.
Right. Let's see. Toxic positivity is trying to remove yourself from the equation or truth of reality. Absolutely. Absolutely. So it doesn't reveal the real you. It doesn't reveal the true you. And on the other side, the other person don't want to deal with the true you. They don't want to necessarily deal with the things that you're dealing with right now. So they're just going to give you some statement that just kind of masks over it. And so that's what we're getting at. Being stoic or wearing a smile to the outside world, even when you're not. Coined best with Smokey Robinson, Tears of a Clown. Yeah,
See,
absolutely.
I've researched what being stoic is, and being stoic is not being emotionless. Like, it's really not. It's just not being controlled by them.
Right.
You can still show emotions and be stoic. You just can't allow your emotions to control you and how you, well, as men, we can't allow ourselves to be controlled by our emotions and fly off the handle. We just got to rule them with logic. That's what I view being stoic is: ruling your emotions with logic, being emotionally intelligent at base level, being intelligent with my emotions.
Well, I don't
Am
think.
I off?
No, you're not. But I don't think she is using stoicism as a description of it. I think she is using it as a beginning to articulate what it looks like. Case in point, like if let's just say I just went through a divorce, right? If I just went through a divorce, then what I show everybody else is a stoic expression. And so when people ask, how are you? I just give a very simple response. So I don't think she is saying that stoicism is toxic positivity. I think what she is using that as a starting point to describe the point that she was trying to make moving forward.
Okay.
And Adrian, if I'm wrong, please correct me. Please correct me.
No, I just wanted to say that because stoic is a buzzword, and back then it used to mean something.
I mean,
I actually view what it was, and I view everybody that was ever stoic is I'm just not ruled by my emotions. I still feel them, but I'm not ruled by them.
but good, bad, or indifferent, right? It and I like that Coach used the same word I was thinking, which was like a baseline, right? Of where it starts, even if it's in an attempt to control one's emotion, whether being stoic, good, bad, and however you view it, or whatever the outcome is not the true identity of what's going on the inside. Even if I am properly controlling my emotions so I can continue to navigate through life or through a situation, it is still not the true basis of what's going on internally.
Okay, so it's like a cover-up.
In essence.
Okay.
It's like wearing a mask.
Okay, I'm learning. Okay.
Nope, you're good. You're good. Great question. Michelle says, "Have a blessed day on purpose" is the one that I want to say. What does that mean?
It means the on purpose part means that you have control over it.
Do you?
Yes, because we say it at schools, like like have a good day on purpose and stuff like this. So like
I think you
do it on purpose, then you're kind of like making an attempt to make sure it happens.
Because like taking lemons and making lemonade, because when I think in life, when people are dealt a bunch of mess, they have that endurance. They build up a tolerance for it. So it's like, okay, whatever I get, I'm still gonna make the best of it. And when it comes to what we were referring to earlier, I was thinking about the movie Life when Biscuit got the news that he was getting out, when he ran to the line,
the gun line, boss.
right?
But we're looking at the word blessed. Is
No.
blessed a mindset, or
I think blessed is I know how to be a base and a bound. I mean, wherever I am, I'm good. Like, even if I'm not good, I know it won't last. Or, I mean, it ain't to death. Like, I don't care what's in my house could burn down today. And I'm going to be mad about it. I got to change my vernacular. I'm going to be mad about it. But I know, hey, kids safe, good. I'm one of them people where I never focus, not look at, focus on the bad stuff all the time. I got to look at it. I got to observe it, and I got to figure out what I'm going to do with it.
I think there's a difference. So the blessing is the kids are safe, though my house burnt down. The mindset is I'm focused on the blessing. So because I don't think we control being blessed or not, right? If depending on how some people view it, right? I'm thinking from a different aspect, maybe of the content, but blessing is something
I
that
get what
is
you're saying.
Voluntary. How I view the scenario, if I'm able to view the blessing, so having a blessed day on purpose, to me seems as if I can control whether or not the blessing come. I think I can I can control how I react to whatever happens, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just digging too
You
deep.
just
But when I look at that word blessed, yeah.
No, I used to work in retail. From what it sounds like,
Mm.
you're just controlling your controllables. You're controlling what you can control to have a
Yeah.
blessed day, but you don't necessarily control whether or not you're going to have a blessed day. You can just control what you can control to get there. There are always going to be things that happen. Am I
No, you're good,
about to say,
bro.
am I
No,
diving too deep?
no, you're good. I'm just smiling because I'm enjoying the banter back and forth about the word blessed. But
I think it's thank you, Michelle, Ray. I think it's a buzzword too.
Chris, you were talking about you're not allowed to use the word buzzword anymore.
Well, if they would quit popping up in the chat,
I'm
I
joking,
wouldn't
man.
have
I'm
to
joking.
say anything.
I'm joking, man. I'm joking. I think across the spectrum, we can come up with several of these phrases, right? Several of these terms that people have just coined and use, for whatever thing. And it is a cover up. Like Roland, I do like your example, but let's be honest, if your house did burn down, like you said, you're gonna be mad. That's the part of humanity that people like, say, for example, your close friend, your homies, your bros, whatever that look like. That's the part that they want to know because that's the thing that doesn't make you a robot. If you have the ability to articulate that to them, then they're like, okay, he is what's the word I'm looking at? He is being vulnerable in that particular moment. Not that he's weak, right? He is just telling you what exactly he is feeling in that particular moment. Does that mean he focuses his entire attention there? Absolutely not. It just means that he is having the conversation with people that he know, love, and care about to such a degree that they understand that he is honest, he is open, he is human, right? I think too many times we especially in social media, we have this conversation that says, "Hey, you know what? And no matter what I go through, I'm good." No, you're not. Let's keep it real. You're going to ebb and flow. It is a facet of life. I don't care who you are, right? We can say it however we want to say it. There are times when I'm here. There are times when I'm here. The key is for me not to get all the way down here. And so when I'm here, I change my focus so I can come back up here and stable out. And that's the key. And that's really what this whole concept of toxic positivity is all about. Because again, when we project in one lie, it won't be long before we're projecting many lies across the spectrum. So I kind of want to just, close that question out and keep moving on because again, I'm loving what everybody's saying. I'm appreciate what they're saying in the chats because they're putting a lot of great information out there. Moving on to the next question, which is how does the pressure to always stay positive impact your ability to navigate real life challenges and express genuine emotions?
I think sometimes it can be disconcerting. I mean, when you, like I said earlier, you have to focus on the pain. You have to focus on the hurt because if you don't, you bottle it up. And then you're gonna blow up. See, I get sick of the internet because there's certain things you can't say because they're gonna be at my house talking about some stuff. But anyway, uh, you gon' be like a pop bottle with the top on. Then you take the top off and. But you have to look at the situations. Life is not always positive. You have to look at life for what it is. Is you don't dwell on it. You don't stay there. You don't linger long. You have to mourn. You have like someone said something about a funeral. When you're at a funeral, you don't go in there saying, "Woo, I'm glad Mama passed away." You mourn. You deal with your mourning and you get up realizing, like, man, but I appreciate the time that I had with her. I celebrate her life. It's that's how I look at it. I don't look at it as it's not a woe is me and now it's time for me to go to put me in the casket. I want to go with her, things of that sort. When you have no hope, that's what people who have no hope do. When you have a hope, then you can look at situations and say, man, what is this trying to build me to do? Because it's beating me down. It's beating me down, but I got to stick with whatever I'm going through. I got to stick with it. I got to stay in the process so that now going through the process, I can see where the blessing came.
I think you can come off as fake, just being honest. Right. We all know those people are always like, oh man, how you doing? Oh, brother, I'm good. Brother, I'm good. Bro, broke. You know what I mean? His car, got flat tires on it. You know what I mean? Just a lot of bad stuff. His wife done left him. You know what I mean? The dog done kicked him. All these bad things going on in their life, and they still walking around, talking about I'm blessed and highly favored. Yeah, everything good. So I think, sometimes people, you just come off as fake to people. You know what I mean? When you walk around always like extra positive, super positive, and I think that can cause, people to not, like I said, if you don't seem authentic to people, then people are not going to trust you. You know what I'm saying? So I think that sometimes, when you have that pressure to stay positive, sometimes it can be overdone. You know what I mean? And like I said, I think that, the way it, I don't know. I just, like I said, I think you come off fake and then people ain't going to trust you. So that's my 2 cents.
Has society gotten that bad where somebody being positive all the time is viewed as fake?
I think so.
Because I'm positive all the
you look
time.
at,
But it's
I'm
I
just
guess
pissed off.
I guess I would say if you look at their life, right? Like I said, they got all of these bad things going. Like I remember, like I grew up in the church, right? And they want tithes and they want 3 or 4 offerings and all these different things, and people is broke, right? But they still walking around talking about they blessed and highly favored, but they having to pay their tithes. 10% of their earnings and stuff like that. And depending on what church we're at, some going to tax, some going to 10% off the gross and some off the net, depending on what church you at. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, I've seen people almost be like zombies in church to where they're, praise the Lord and, all these positive, Christian mantras and stuff that we've been hearing since we was kids, but their life is not reflecting, what's coming out of their mouth.
But
So go ahead.
But see, this is where I have an issue, for lack of a better phrase. Or I'm just going to say this. I understand your viewpoint, but I'm not arrogant enough to put how I would take all of the stuff that's going on in that person's life and view it as his life ain't going the way it's supposed to go. He could be viewing it as, man, all of this stuff had to fall apart in order for me to do this. Jesus H, this weight is falling off of my shoulders. You understand what I'm saying? Like I've never been the guy to do that. Like I hate it when people say, oh, you a better one than me or something like that. You understand what I'm saying? Like I just might be because I'm enduring this when you would just do whatever. You understand what I'm saying? So
would you follow somebody like that? A leader in the church?
I cannot answer that objectively because I'm jaded on the church as a whole. So I can't be objective when I answer that. So I'm going
What if we take the church out and just say a leader in general?
Well,
Your boss was always talking positive, but his life is not reflecting it. Y'all shift it sucks. You know what I mean? You guys are not making mission.
But
I don't know. I'm
see,
just saying.
But see, here's the thing, man. His life might be reflecting it to him. It doesn't have to reflect that to us. That's his life. And if he views all of the bad stuff that you, and I'm saying you speaking as an avatar, like in general.
I got it.
If he were to let how you feel about what he's going through mess up his thinking, then he would view it as a negative. But he might be in his own diamond mind going through all of that. You understand what I'm saying? So like that's just me. That's my side of it. I'm not arrogant. I'm not arrogant enough to do that. I'm not arrogant enough to do that.
Understand.
You like it, I love it.
And so I think where I fall, I'm gonna say where I fall in this whole spectrum, right, is it, and just using that leadership, I think sometimes it takes away your ability, because I'm sticking to the question, right? Because I feel for me, I see where it goes, right? How does the pressure to always stay positive impact your ability to navigate real life changes and express genuine emotions? And here's the thing: if you are a leader, whether you're in the church or on the job or whatever the case may be, sometimes that pressure to try to stay positive, it causes you sometimes to disconnect from the reality of the issues of those who you are so-called leading. And so then when I'm asking for tithes, like there are there's some out there, not all pastors do stuff like this, right? Disclaimer, but there are some out there who will call people in because their tithes ain't right, versus understanding and knowing that these people have real life issues. I used to have someone, here go toxic positive. I used to have someone when I used to say, hey, I just got out the military, I ain't got no job. I'm driving Uber to make a buck until at least my disability gets straight and we got bills. And someone turned around and say, but you spend money on what you want to spend money on. Yeah, like a place for my kids to sleep, lights for my kids to see, food for my kids to eat. Not that I don't want to give to whatever we got going on here, but I can't give to where it takes away from my main priority, which is making sure my family is straight. And so because there were safety nets in place for other people to be able to do things the way they wanted to do it, it was easy for them to push their false narrow positivity onto me without realizing there are blockers that's keeping me from doing what they can do. I can't. I'm gonna do this, but I can't do everything you asking me yet because I'm doing this. I have to take care of this. Well, then your heart is not here because your treasures is not here. It's not what that scripture meant, but okay, all right. But these and I'm using real life conversations, right? That happened to me. I can't speak of no one else. I'm only speaking conversations that happened to me. All right. So when you're living in this in this place of I got kids, so just bear with me. The way everything is awesome, right? You forget that the people around you are struggling.
What was that? No.
So you want to do it again? No, sorry.
No, I want to jump in on this one because I like this question, because I think when we look at it, and the reason I say it's relational, because I don't know what you've been through, so I can't gauge what you are going through, the impact that it's having on you. Like, because I remember when I was looking down and my chest was wide open, and all I could do, I couldn't move, I couldn't wipe my own hiney. Somebody else had to do it for me, and all I could do was raise my arms. So then my mental started to say, man, if I could do this and have motion, then I'm having a good day. So, and other people will look at me and say, man, you can't be. Look, I'm looking at you. You can't even walk and you can't even this. But I'm like, dude, I'm breathing. I'm cognizant. And we do that when we look at our politicians. People considered President Barack Obama fake because they knew when people would do things towards him, they knew how they would react. They would be like saying F you. They would be saying, I wouldn't take that, because they know where they are. But he's looking at it as an opportunity, and I'm here, and I have to have a sense of decorum and class with this thing. So when people say what they will do in situations, they say it from the outside looking in and not being in it. So to stay positive at all times is a facade, as somebody said earlier, but to be in a situation and have gone through it and gain positivity through that, that's different than just merely staying positive at all times. Because nobody, if you call me at 3:00 in the morning, I don't care what's going on, unless it's death, I'm gonna tell you, they're gonna be dead at 9:00. You could have called me in the morning. I'm kind of callous when it comes to certain things. I just am. And if you just want to talk and like that, that's fine. But just to tell me, nah. It's certain things that the world has made me calloused over to where I'm hardened by life. That won't affect me like it would some other people. But some other people, it's gonna tear them down because of that struggle with them and their relationship. But if I don't have that same relationship, I'm just gonna merely fold my hands and listen.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is always being positive, what's the difference between always being positive and always finding the positive in a situation?
I'm actually about to answer that.
Okay, cool.
I like,
Because that's what it sounds like everybody is talking about.
right. I like everybody's perspective of the relational aspect of it, because in anybody who's had an outstanding leader has observed this. At some point, the leader, the father, the whoever, you're going to have to show that you're human. If you do not show that you're human, I'll be honest with you, I can't trust you. Because you see, I'm looking at you. You ain't never been through nothing, so you can't even relate to what I'm going through. You can't relate to my life. But I'm gonna go a different route. Anybody ever drove a stick shift? Okay, everybody. Okay, so if you ever drove a stick shift, there's a point in which you know it's time to change those gears. And if you don't change those gears, the RPMs on that transmission is going to rev real high. That's what it's like. If you're thinking you're going to be up here constantly, it's going to come a point where you're going to burn out. Literally, you're going to burn out. You're going to redline yourself. The same thing happens when you're down here constantly as well. That's why I brought in the concept of the ebbs and flow. Ebbing and flowing is healthy, right? But constantly thinking that I have to be here and pressing myself to be here and comparing myself to other people and comparing myself to these situations and so forth and so on. None of that is healthy, right? The only person you should ever compare yourself to is a person in the mirror. So regardless of how much this person is smiling, if I'm going through some things, I ain't trying to match smiles with them, right? So I think when we go back to this question, one of the biggest things that we have to understand is that it has a very serious effect on me personally. It has to. And so when I constantly trying to stay at a high rate at all time, my RPMs are always jacked up. You know what I'm saying? And I'm always, we got to do this. Oh, we got, it's not good. It's not healthy. That's why it's important when things happen in your life, you got to have people that you can talk to. Why? Because this is where we relate. This is where we celebrate. Let me say that part again. This is where we relate. This is where we celebrate. If all people are doing is celebrating, they're unrelatable. Because in my mind, you're not going through nothing. You ain't never been through nothing. Nothing ever happened to you. None of these things. If I'm down here and I'm constantly relating, that's why you don't see me with a whole bunch of quote unquote friends. Because if I stay down here all the time, all I'm doing is relating with people, constantly relating, right? That's not good either. So you have to go from here to here. Then eventually you're going to come back down here. It's okay. Then you're going to come here and you're going to mellow out, right? Then you're going to probably go back up here. Then you're going to come back down here. Then you're going to mellow out again, right? So down here I'm relating, up here I'm celebrating. And here's the deal: the people that I related to down here, when we go up, we're celebrating because we're all going up. Should be, right? If we have the same mindset, we're all going up at the same time. So that's the thing I want to bring to the table, because again, that constant strive, that constant push, it's a lot of pressure, way too much pressure. And the difference in always staying positive and always trying to find the positive in a thing depends on where you are, right? If I'm always staying positive up here, then there's nothing for me to look for in the positive because I'm already at a space where I'm highly elated. If I'm down here, now I'm looking for the silver lining in the situation. Now I'm looking for something to grab hold to where it says, you know what, this is not. It's bad, right? It's not ideal, but you know what? It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be because there's a silver lining in here. And for me, in most cases, that silver lining is always the most high. Doesn't matter what it looks like. The only thing that matters is what I believe. Because here I guarantee I'm counting the days because I'm expecting it to go back up here. And I think that's the key that we have to understand. We can't live a life to where we're unauthentic and disingenuous about life itself because people are going to look at you sideways and be like, I don't know about something about that guy. Something about that guy. Listen, before I give it back over to you guys, regardless of where you guys are, listen, I appreciate you for joining us tonight. Whether you're on TikTok, I'm not TikTok, Lord. Whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on X, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on LinkedIn, wherever you are, go ahead and hit the like button. Go ahead and hit the share button. Right. Make sure that you drop a comment as well. If you're on YouTube, we kind of left a gift in there because in this it's a download, and it's a download to where you can do a self-reflective questions on yourself as it relates to toxic positivity, right? But you got to go through. You got to go through to get to the end. So I want to make sure I put that out. So before we press on it, before I pull anything out of the chat, is there any more information that you guys want to kind of add into this particular question?
I got a oh no, never mind. Oh, actually, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead with it because we did. It may be helpful, at least to me, and if it's not to anybody else, I apologize for being selfish. But can some of this toxic positivity behavior I know all of it is kind of learned, but can some of that be learned? Can some of it be ignorance? And what I mean by it is this, right? So, and I don't want to go back to the church, but I am, right? So we were taught certain things in the church, praise the Lord, blessed and highly favored, right? So we just go around repeating these things. So is that what I see? A lot of head nods. So I'm assuming, yes, that definitely can be learned.
The
and ignorant.
prerequisite of wisdom is ignorance. So when a person don't know something, and a lot of times they make it up, or they follow somebody who they think they know, and they don't ever validate what it is that they're doing.
And I just wanted to make sure, at least from the aspect of I can't speak for everybody, of where I'm speaking. Like, I think we have to understand the difference between having a positive mindset of as what we were saying, resiliency training, right? Hunting the good stuff, right? And toxic optimism or positivity, right? Is when I'm reflecting that level of positivity outside of the reality of the situations of those around me, right? Of those I'm dealing with, because you have people who say stuff like hunt the good stuff, right? Well, I can't see the good stuff right now, so you're not speaking in my reality because what is in front of me, and there's things that needs to be dealt with that a lot of times people they negate the ability to deal with what the people are trying to express. If you come to me and you express an issue, something that's weighing on you, and my positivity makes me turn around and say, get over it, or it builds character, what I'm telling you to do is swallow it and hold it until it busts inside of you. And I caused it by not being able to be real or be relatable. And so it's not positivity that's the problem, right? That's why it's important to realize that the word toxic was put on the top of it, so we understand that we're talking about when it has a negative effect, right? But I just wanted to put that out there.
Do you agree, or do you think that it's on some things we should say suck it up, get over it, and move on with your life? Or you think that everything we go through, we gotta dwell on the trauma that it caused us, or whatever like that?
So if you're my brother, my friend, my even my subordinate, right? And it depends on how it's affecting you. I may be able to suck it up and drive on, right? I used to tell my story a lot when I first got on here. I've been through a lot of things. Not everybody has been homeless. Not everybody has been poor. Not everybody remember eating mayonnaise sandwiches or, putting sugar on toast because you can't get no donuts, right? You can't afford you had to make things happen. So when there's things in life that has come up, things in the military that has come up that I was able to just suck up and drive on, but not everybody is there. And that's not everybody's reality. I have to be able to deal with your reality. Is it something that is weighing on you? That's something that you can't hump over. Me saying suck it up and drive on, if it's making you hold it in internally and not be able to function no more, then I failed you as a friend, brother, or leader, whatever that relationship is.
And I think
Instead of giving my go ahead.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm not sorry.
No,
No, I just hate that phrase. That's why our generation needed a lot of therapy, because suck it up, get up. You ain't hurt. You know, like, I am hurt. Don't cry and all that other stuff, because we were made to bottle up things. We were made to suppress it to where we didn't deal with it at all. So now you get a 50-year-old man who's callous because he's seen death since he was a toddler. And now when he goes to war, that ain't bothering me, but it bothers other people. And I think it's normal because it doesn't bother me. I can't make my pains or the lack thereof normal to other people. And that's what we do when we say suck it up and drive on and things of that nature.
So when we talk about this, it's I didn't want to really get into I don't want to get into details about it. But what we're really talking about is like neuroplasticity. Um, I think when you look at how things work in your brain, right? It talks about its ability to snap back or change. Well, the consistency in any region makes it rigid, right? Once it's rigid, then you're gonna have a lot of issues. You're gonna have a lot of concerns, right? You'll see it a lot of times. Have you ever had a conversation with a person, and they have their point of view, and you have your point of view, and they're not the same point of view, but yet when you're talking to the person, you can see in their eyes like they can't fathom what you're talking about. Like they're looking at you, like even though you know for a fact that what you're saying is accurate, they're looking at you like that's the most foreign thing they've ever heard in their life. And they're struggling trying to mentally grasp what you're saying. And they will literally die on a hill based upon their concept of reality compared to your concept of reality. Well, the issue is that they don't have the flexibility to actually grasp what it is that you're saying. They're stuck, they're rigid, right? And that's kind of like the same thing. When you go through these concepts, you're dealing with these negative emotions, so forth and so on, then what ends up happening is that you are constantly, constantly depression, 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 negative stuff, negative stuff, negative stuff, negative stuff, negative stuff, negative stuff. So now they're conditioned to this negative stuff that's constantly happening. Or let's raise it to the other side. You have redlined so much that you've burnt yourself out. So you don't have the ability to bounce back, right? So when people go down here and they're dealing with the negative stuff, I think somebody mentioned the hunt the good stuff. I think it was Gaddy, and then Michelle Ray put it in the chat. Well, the hunt the good stuff concept is that, look, you might be down here, but what can you think about that's positive? Because a lot of times when people are in depressive state, they can't even generate a positive thought, right? That's what we're talking about when we're talking about neuroplasticity. All you see is the gloom and doom of what you're dealing with, and you can't even think of anything up here, right? Well, the same thing actually works in reverse, right? You can't consider what somebody else is going through because in your mind, positive, 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 positive. Then what ends up happening is that these people start feeling like they're less than you simply because this is where you're saying that they have to be constantly. You can't even relate to what they're going through simply because, again, you're telling them that what you're going through isn't reality. Get over it. Man up. Do this, whatever. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps, right? So that's what we're talking about when we look at this. It's not a bad thing let me go back to the original question. And I think this is part of what Lisa's question is as well. When is enough enough? I think that's kind of like where we're going. Like if you have a friend that's going through a thing, like do you ever tell them, say, hey, you know what? You're just going to have to suck it up and do better. Well, I think there is a time for that. And the time for that is when you recognize that they've embraced the notion of being negative intentionally and recycling the thoughts over and over and over again. And you can tell in the midst of talking to these people. Like, uh, one of the things I tend to say is that an emotion lasts for 90 seconds. The recycling of the memory that you have of the thing that put you in that emotional state is up to you. And every time you recycle it, the clock starts over. So that, I'm sorry, 90 seconds. So that 90-second emotion that you're feeling, it wants to go away, but you won't let it because you're constantly recycling the event. And the more you recycle the event, the longer duration the emotion stays with you. Okay. And so that's what we have to understand. If I have a friend that I recognize as doing that, do not be surprised if I tell you, say, two things. I'll be here. I'll be in emotional support, but I will not be your emotional life raft. I won't do that. I will not sacrifice myself on a consistent basis when you keep jumping in the deep pool knowing that you can't swim. I'll jump in and get you once or twice. But if you keep doing it intentionally, hey man, you need to learn to swim. I'm gonna sit here and watch it, but you need to learn to swim. Sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes it's necessary to do that because sometimes that's what a friend needs to do. And that's what relationship is. Relationship is where you take the risk, right? Because let's be honest, the other side of that, if you tell that to them, they may never talk to you again. But if you take the risk for the sake of the other person, right, run the risk of possibly losing that person or saving that person's life, which one is more important? I will always go to save that person's life because again, the long haul of depression, I think we know what that is. So that's just it. Did we answer your question, bro? Okay, I just want to make sure. All right, Lisa, did we answer the? Did I answer or kind of touched on it? Where's the balance between always being positive at all costs and saying I'm not good, this is too much, etc. Some would say that this person is negative. I believe there are many things to consider in this current world with all the confusion, uh, world with all the information that we digest. Absolutely. Um, where do we draw the line? That is different for everybody. I believe that some people have the ability to show them more than others. At some point, you have to recognize, and your body will talk to you, right? You'll start feeling anxiety, you'll start feeling depression, and things of that nature. What you don't want to do is exist in there for a prolonged period of time. That's when you kind of, reach out and say, "Hey, Roland. Hey, Unc. Hey, Chris. Hey, Gaddy. I need to talk, bro. I really need to talk." And when you do that, then that's when they hear it in your voice and they clear their slate and they actually listen to everything that you're saying because that's a different sound in that person's voice than I've ever heard. So I think for each person, they have to search themselves to understand where that tipping point is for them. I really can't say where, but I think that's a great question. And I think that's part of the reason why toxic positivity is such a big deal. Because if we continuously strive or pushing ourselves, I'm sorry, if we're continually pushing ourselves at the positive rate and telling people you got to stay positive, you got to stay positive, they don't know what they can handle. When you find a person who don't know what they can handle, then where's the risk? Where's the risk for the future that you really want in your life? Because let's just be honest, the only way that you can ever stay here is that you never move outside your comfort zone. Moving outside of your comfort zone is going to disappoint you in some shape, form, or fashion, guaranteed. And so your ability to go through disappointment, bounce back, go through disappointment, bounce back, go through disappointment, succeed. That's what progression is. So I hope that answers your question. And gentlemen, I'm sorry I took that question, but I really want to keep pressing forward because these are great questions. And I hope that this stuff is starting to become clear to everybody else, or to everybody really. Roland, you brought in the notion of mental health, and so I want to jump on the first mental health question here, because how can the suppression, and you mentioned that, that's why I went here. How can the suppression of negative emotions, as encouraged by toxic optimism, lead to increased stress, anxiety, or depression over time?
I think, I'll start. When it comes to mental health, in some cases it comes out, in a lot of cases it comes out physically too. You could be going through some things, you be stressed out, and you can physically get sick from it. I think, when you're holding things in, and you're not dealing with things, it's no different than a physical injury or a physical wound. If you burn yourself on the stove and you got a big old mark, where as long as you don't address it, you don't heal it, you don't put any cream on it, whatever you decide to do, then it's going to still be there. At some point you got to deal with it, got to bandage it up or whatever like this. So I think it's kind of similar to when you hold things in. When you hold things in and you never have a place where you can release them, then things build up. That's why you see people holding in stuff and then they blow up and they explode, or because they don't spend time out trying to take care of themselves. So like Gaddy said at the beginning, man, I'm gonna start chewing on the bone, and due to time restraints, I'm gonna let somebody else gnaw on it. So simply put, when you don't hold stuff in, that stuff can have a physical impact on your body long term.
You muted, Chris.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? You turn to answer this question, you turn into me. Seriously, you turn into me. You turn into a guy who's angry all the time. And it's not fun. It's really not. And from what I'm starting to understand about toxic optimism and toxic positivity, it is a complete dismissal of the person that you're trying to be positive with. And I think that's the part of it that people don't understand. Yeah, man, it's depressing to be dismissed. And it can make you anxious because you anxious around that person. You really don't want to talk to them because all they're going to do is just dismiss you. And that stresses you out because that person is in your life. So, and then you pull yourself out of it, you get out of the pool and take a shower, and you look at everything from an objective point of view, and you get pissed off about it. Why did I let this person in my life like this? Why didn't I say anything right then and right there? Why didn't I tell this person to shut up? Why didn't I tell this person that it's okay to feel, but you can't stay there? Why didn't I do that? You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, you turn into me. And I always say this. There's you really do not want a bunch of me's out here. You really don't.
Sir, I'm going to request that you stop doing that, by the way. Um, and you know why I'm saying that. And you know what I'm saying. Um, there's nothing wrong with learning. That's the thing that we have to keep in mind. There's absolutely nothing wrong with learning, and I don't care who we are in whatever space. There's always something that we don't know, and we kind of talked about this earlier. In the space of the things that I don't know, for the most part, I'll make it up until I figure it out, or I'm around somebody who can share with me the right thing to know and how to actually do that. So, um, you being in this world, sir, is not a bad thing. It's a great thing. Your honesty, right? And I want to point this out. Your honesty and humility about where you are is I mean it's rare. It's rare. So I want to say that openly and in public because I don't want you to walk away from this like a whole bunch of me's. Like no, no, don't look at it that way. Like
I'm
I w-
telling you, coach, you don't need a whole bunch of pissed off men out here. Like you don't. Well, actually, you know what? I take that back. I think you just might. So I'm going to take that, coach. You just might need a bunch of pissed off men out here. You just might. Because those
arrogant pissed
men,
off men, arrogant pissed off men, no. Humble
what
pissed off men, different.
right, we might need a few of them. It's like, hey man, look, I'm not gonna fly off the handle, but this ain't right. Shut up. We need more men like that. Like we do. We need more men like that. And that's where I am with it. That's why I always say I'm objective and I'm lowest common denominator.
Yeah, I got you.
So yeah, I take it back. Now I'm gonna mute my mic because I feel like I'm talking too much.
Gentlemen, what said ye? Anything else?
I think really this is a topic that don't need too much summing up, right? Because I think my brother said a lot. Um and and is right there in the question, right? Just suppression of negative emotions, right? The difference between suppression and dealing with, right? Or learning how to overcome, right? Which I think is a skill, is different, you know. So when you suppress your negative emotion, as encouraged by toxic optimism, it just does. It leads to stress. It leads to anxiety. It leads to depression over time. That is just what happens. Some people say all the time, without degrees, only degree they got is the degree of parenting, right? And they tell all the time, don't hold that thing in. Stop holding everything in. Learn to let some things out. Find an outlet. Get into a sport. Get into a boxing. Find your friend somewhere where you can just and let it go, because that is exactly what happens when you suppress. It's a difference between thinking positive and suppression, you know. So when there's something that's weighing on you, you got to have an outlet. You have to have a way. Some people's it's the gun range, it's the basketball court, you know, but it can't just sit and fester, because then everything you will view through the lens of the pain, because it's undealt with.
And it's dangerous.
It is very dangerous.
It's dangerous to suppress all of that. You suppressing all of that, and you get into a situation where the lid gets blown off. That situation isn't even about what happened that particular time. It's about that and everything else. That's why I'm afraid to fight. Seriously. That's why I'm afraid to fight, because I'm too angry. And if I were to get into a situation, me getting into a fight wouldn't be about that fight. It would be about that fight and every other fight that I didn't fight. You understand what I'm saying? It would be about everything that I didn't say, everything that I didn't do, all the anxiety that I was feeling around these people, being depressed because I didn't feel like I didn't have any friends. You understand what I'm saying? Because under the guise of I gotta make sure that I'm always good. You know what I'm saying? At least to the public perception. It's scary and it's dangerous. Why do you think it's Grand Theft Auto outside right now? It's dangerous.
I'll just jump in quickly. I think that when we look at how can the suppression of negative emotions as encouraged by toxic optimism lead to increased stress, because what it does, it tells me to walk around with a mask on. It tells me to not become myself, to not be who I truly am, because I have to put the mask of expectations of who you want me to be, who you see me as, instead of being my natural self. That's why when these brothers said you got to find you an outlet or friends, because if you don't, what you'll do is you'll find various numbing agents, and your numbing agents to be drugs, alcohol, women, men, whatever it is, vices that you gravitate towards. That's what you'll find to make yourself feel a certain way, to where you no longer feel the pain. And the pain will get to you. That's why we have people like Robin Williams who did what he did, and other people who were the life of the party, Junior Seau. They were the life of the party to everybody else, but inside they were dying. Inside they were hurting, but they didn't feel that they could lower their shields so that they could receive help from somebody else, because they always had to be the spearhead. They always had to have it all going on, and that perception from other people will make you a very masked and bottled up person, to where you don't trust anybody and you really don't trust yourself. But you can get that liquid courage and you can become who they want you to be. But then when you go home, you got to sit with yourself. So that's all I got to say on that.
All right. Very good. I greatly appreciate that. We got one more question we're going to answer openly. And then the next question, I want to save that question for our final thoughts. So the next question, I want to go down to the importance of emotional intelligence. Let's get the second question there. Yeah, let's get the second question under that one. So, what strategies can be employed to enhance emotional intelligence in oneself, especially in recognizing and validating not only one's own emotions, but also those of others? What strategies?
Okay. I think one, meditation. Look up what meditation is. Don't just go off of what you see somebody do or you watch what's love got to do with it. You in there rumbling out how we go. Don't know. Look up what meditation is and actually meditate to where you learn so that you won't be angry all the time. Maybe sometime, but you learn how to deal with it and you learn how to control the man or the woman within. Because when you master self-control, then and only then can you help somebody else when it comes to this point. And we need to not just think about controlling ourselves, but be honest with ourselves. You gotta, if you aren't where you want to be, you gotta speak that truth. Don't just say, I'm not where I am, but nah, you stay where I am, and if you lazy, if you're shiftless, if you have some traits that you don't like, you gotta identify them so that you can work on it. Because when you speak those things that you need to work on, write them down. Say, okay, let me pin this thing so I can work on it. Let me talk about my laziness. Let me talk about my anger issues. Let me talk about I'm a people pleaser. Let me talk about these things with myself so that now I can find a friend and say, dude, be brutally honest with me and tell me how you see me, truthfully. And that way you can learn about yourself, how others see you, and you can grow.
As far as strategies that one can use for themselves, journal. Write. I've worked out so many things just writing. Okay, this is what it is. Okay, why do I feel like this? Because of this. Okay, your worst fears never happen. So if this were to happen, what would you do? You understand what I'm saying? Like, just write it out. Write it out and just map it out from there. As far as others, learn objectivity. Just learn how to be objective. Um, instead of being, since we're talking about this, instead of being a toxic positive person, just try to look at it for what it is and give them the advice you would want somebody to give you. You understand what I'm saying? This, or just speak to them like you would want somebody to speak to you. It's not as far as the others' emotions, that ain't about you. It's about them. That ain't about you. So speak to them the way that they learn objectivity and journal. Just write. That's where I would
Strategies.
start.
Well, with strategies for me, I think all things come back to physical fitness at some point anyway. I think, taking care of your body and your health can help anything, help mentally altogether. And then when you're in a workout session for 30, 45 minutes, you know what I mean? You have a lot of free time to think about certain things and you can work on yourself. You're doing something to work on yourself. I think another strategy that you could employ is just to have hobbies in your life. When you're doing something that you enjoy doing, I think that also right there can help with overall just emotional intelligence. And I think lastly is just increasing the amount of discipline that you have in your life. I think when you have discipline, it creates balance. It allows for time to do what you're supposed to do, and then allows for time to do what you want to do. Have fun. I think all of those things combined together can all help enhance emotional intelligence. Again, those are having hobbies, fitness, and then overall increasing your discipline.
I would say everything my brother said and learn to speak and to listen. Because we said with oneself and with others. And matter of fact, I'm just gonna deal with oneself. Learn to speak and then listen. You have to learn how to express and to whom to express yourself to, right? Everyone that smiles in your face is not a good outlet, because some people will take your issues and turn them into trauma, because they will abuse it. They would misuse you based upon your moment of weakness, or they'll go talk about you behind your back and have others look at you differently. They will validate the fears, right? And so the intelligence part is knowing who to talk to, knowing who are your friends. I think sometimes if the issue is validation, we choose the wrong friends, right? And so we need that one good friend that lets us know, hey, this is the safe space. We need to start being purposeful to one another and creating those safe spaces for someone to be able to call me and talk about what they need to talk about. And I don't go run and tell everybody in the neighborhood, well, let me tell you what Chris just told me. You get what I'm saying? So you need that safe space. Even if you ain't got no friends, there's professionals, right? But learn to talk, learn to speak, learn to get it out, right? I like having outlets. I like to, sometimes when I get mad, I just want to go for a walk, or I just want to go. I used to say go for a run, but that's when I was 20. But go to the gym and play ball or something, or go lift weights. Something that gives me that outlet, right? That gives me that space to just release tension. But when it's something that's building up or something that is creating depression, I need to go talk to someone. And then when I say learn to listen, sometimes I think we try to find the answers ourselves all the time, when sometimes we got to learn to let people be honest with us. Some of us are too sensitive to get the help we need. Constructive criticism seems as if it's hate. Well, sometimes there might be some haters out there you might need to listen to, because it's something in there that you can learn. I'm not saying entertain all your haters, but don't let everyone don't brush everyone off because they didn't tell you were perfect. If everything was perfect, we wouldn't always have issues. So everything is not perfect. We need to learn how to deal with it, how to get through it. And sometimes it starts with us. So listen to the person you sometimes open up to. So learn to speak and learn to listen.
Yeah, I'm liking everything that's said. I always start with the self reflection. I don't believe that anybody can go through any type of growth unless they're self reflecting on their behaviors, right? Take inventory of yourself, not from the perspective of what's going on in the situation or what somebody else is doing, right? Self reflect on your behaviors, how you feel in any given situation, right? Document the actual situation itself. Like when these things happen, this is how I generally feel, right? And then from the reflection stage, you want to go into the assessment stage as well, like assess it as well, right? However whatever assessment criteria you go through. But then from there, it has to jump into what is known as relationship management. So now, based upon what you learn about yourself in the space of relationship, the only one that you can control is yourself, not anyone else. So, based upon those lessons learned, now starting to implement them in the space of relationship. And then as you progress and you find relationships are slowly improving and getting better, start looking at social management as well. How are you in social settings and how do you respond to certain things? Um, so, Adrian, I hope that answered your question. If not, please, by all means, give us another version of that question, and I will definitely try to circle back around to it. In the meantime, this also brings us to our bittersweet moment. Before we jump into our final thoughts, I want to make sure that I thank everybody who was with us this evening, not just the panel members. I greatly appreciate you guys, but I also want to make sure I'm thanking everybody in the chat, regardless of where you are or what platform, whether you're visible or invisible. Right? I want to thank you for attending. I hope this conversation has been helpful. So, for our final thoughts, we're going to entertain the last question that I wanted to bring out. And this is, how would you describe the characteristics of a safe space that encourages authentic emotional expression? So, that being said, first up is Brother Tawami Gaddy. Sir, you have the floor.
The characteristics of a safe space that encourages authentic emotional expression. Man, that can be tricky, right? It's a trick question to me, right? Because it depends on the person, right? My brother Roland likes to say relational part is very important, because a safe space for me may not be a safe space for Chris or for Unc. And so I have to know, if I'm creating that safe space, I have to know you well enough to know what type of space is a safe space. There's some friends you could go out for drinks and just talk honestly, right? I'm not saying go out for drinks. I ain't been, I don't know, but but there's some friends you can do that with. But there's some friends you take them out to a bar, they don't feel comfortable, because I don't, like me, I don't drink. So you take me out to a bar, I'm just gonna sit there and look at you drink. But some people, it's like, hey, let's chill at the crib and let's do this, or let's go do this. Let's go to the range. You go to the range and shoot. Right? That's my space. That's a place to where I am free. I am open. I enjoy it, or wherever that space may be. So I have to know the person first before I can create that safe space. Sometimes we can get stuck in ourselves saying, this is what I enjoy as a safe space, so I'm gonna create this environment and you better see it as a safe space. No, it don't work that way. It do not work that way, because the goal is to create a space that you can open up, that you can be comfortable, that you can express yourself. And then I have to be actively listening while you are speaking, right? Not speaking because I don't have to resolve every issue. Sometimes I have to hear the issue, and sometimes it resolves it. So sometimes some issues are resolved already. It's just it just weighed on somebody, and so you got to let it out. And so maybe I don't need to respond. Maybe I don't need, so knowing when to speak and when to just let it ride, and just let them get it out. And then they realize, yeah, we already did this, and this is over. It bothered me when, or it bothers me that, so we have to know the person. We have to listen actively and know when to respond, or when a response is necessary, and when to just let it ride out. That's just a little bit, to be honest with you. There's more that can be said, but that's my time. That's what I got. Love you.
I guess I would have to go along with Gaddy. A safe space is a place where you can actually go and share your emotions and not be judged for having them in the first place, especially if we're talking about the men. Um, like I said earlier, there is a difference between being stoic and trying to be emotionless. Um, so yeah, where I would start is just a place where I can actually express myself emotionally without judgment, or without being called a punk or being called sensitive, because I have these feelings that I need to process. Um, and to Tuame's point, to be in a place where I'm actually heard, and being in a place where people will listen to me and try to help me work it out, instead of giving me unsolicited advice about something that they don't understand and that they never will understand. Um, yeah, asking the challenging questions to help me figure things out, as opposed to saying, if I were you, I would do this. Yeah. Yeah, that's where I would start. Yeah, that's where I would start.
Characteristics. I think when you look at this, it has to be a judgment-free zone, where if you got to cuss, cuss. If you got to fuss, yell, whatever you got to do, while we're here together, it could be one other person, it could be a group of people, but we all have to be concerned with you or whomever it is that is going through, concerned enough to listen and not always interject our thoughts, but listen and not always want to encourage. Listening helps more than you know when somebody's trying to get something off their chest, because sometimes you can interject and it'll stop their flow, it'll stop what they're thinking, and they will start to suppress because they're thinking on your plan. And if you got to go out and you got to go to the batting cage, you got to go fishing, you have to go get a drink, get some tea, Long Island iced tea, whatever it is that you have to do at that point, you want to put yourself in a position of comfort, because the more comfortable the person is when it comes to speaking out, when it comes to telling their truth and exposing their pains, their hurts, that's the place you want to be in. Because if it's not that type of environment, they gonna ball it up, and then they gonna talk about what happened on the game last night, what happened this time and that time. But when you're trying to be truthful, sometimes truthful can get ugly. And sometimes men or people don't like to cry. They don't like to show emotions. So you get to a place to where it's okay to be you. It's okay to let your guard down. That's the environment that I would be looking for.
If I was to call Roland up right now and tell him that I am thinking about cheating on my wife, but I don't want to do it, one of the first things that I need is I need to make sure that I have a good relationship with that person, that I can go and express certain things to them. I need to have trust with Roland that whatever we talk about, that he's not going to go back and tell all of my business. They've Everybody have said this too, that you need to be in a place where you are not judged. If I go and tell Roland, like I said, for this example, that I'm thinking about cheating on my wife, I don't need him judging me about the thoughts that I'm having. And then lastly is that we need to have open, effective communication. So based off this question, I would say you need to have trust, but far as a safe place, you need to have trust in a relationship with this person. You need to be a space where you're not going to be judged by the thoughts or whatever information is going to come out of your mouth. And you also need to have open and effective communication. That's my final thought.
I greatly appreciate everybody's perspective. I'm gonna try to keep mine as short as I possibly can by answering the question. Could you bring the question back up, please? Um, First and foremost, when it comes down to creating a safe space that encourages authentic emotional expression, I think sometimes we get blindsided by assuming that just because that authentic emotional expression isn't present, that means that it's not a safe space. Those two things are not necessarily the same thing. So, first and foremost, my responsibility is to make sure that I am implementing all aspects of effective communication, like you heard already, but I am listening more than I am talking. In fact, I think sometimes we confuse ourselves by thinking that it's for me to give advice. It is not for me to give advice, it's for me to listen. And then once I hear exactly what that person is saying, then I need to ask questions to ensure that I am understanding what they're saying at the level in which they're saying. So we need to kind of improve and increase our question asking skills. Sometimes we think that we're asking good questions, but the questions that we're asking are really kind of very low tier questions to where it does not make that person expound on what it is that they're saying. Then we get to the point to where we start paraphrasing or summarizing or parroting what that person actually says, right? That kind of gets after the degree of understanding what they said. When I finally do respond, I'm not responding with my opinion. I'm not responding with my interpretation of none of that stuff. I'm responding in such a way that my response serves them, not my ego. That's the thing that has to be completely outside of the conversation. Again, I don't inject opinions. I don't have an opinion. I don't inject anything else. I don't even take their conversation and make their conversation about me. It does them no good for me to share a story about my past experience in relation to what they're going through, because at the end of the day, they're looking for a place to express themselves. And too many times we believe that we were commissioned to give advice when really in most cases you were commissioned to be a witness. So that said, I just want to kind of again thank everybody for joining us. By all means, go to www.totalmindset.shift.com. Join the community of like-minded individuals where we have constant conversations and continue. In fact, I've already put a question out there in the chats on the website. So we're going to continue in these conversations. We're going to continue to expound on this learning. If you're with us on Sunday morning on TikTok, we're gonna continue this exact same conversation because I knew for a fact that this conversation could have been prolonged. So again, greatly appreciate. Yeah, absolutely, Lisa Keys. 11:30 Eastern Standard Time is when we're going live on TikTok to continue this conversation again. So everybody's invited. Listen, we greatly appreciate you. We value you. It is our job to honor you every time I hit this live button and to give you the best versions of ourselves that we have that evening. So that being said, listen, enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a fantastic weekend and let the blessed version of you be the blessed. Let the best version of you be the blessing that somebody else receives.